the folks on the TikToks, they've been promoting the same ideology. The ideology is, of course, that the real victim here is the trans shooter. So here's one TikToker saying that the Nashville shooting victims would be alive today if it were not for the quote-unquote anti-trans bills in the Tennessee legislature.
I wonder if the parents of the victims of the Nashville shooting today would still have their children if these trans bills in Tennessee were never a thing. I'm not a parent, but if I were, I'd be real mad at the government. I'd be real mad at the government.
Oh, well, that's you're mad at the government now. So that's yes, clearly the problem is discrimination against the trans community by the Tennessee legislature, which of course means that apparently trans people get to shoot Christian school kids. It's not just random TikTokers. The press secretary for the governor of Arizona, Katie Hobbs, put out a totally insane tweet. How insane was this tweet? The press secretary now had to protect her own Twitter feed. She went private. Her name is Jocelyn Berry. This is after the shooting. She put up a tweet. It's a picture of a woman with two guns pointing off camera. And it says, "Us when we see transphobes." So literally in the aftermath of the murder of kids by a trans person, the press secretary to Katie Hobbs put up a tweet saying, "Us when we see transphobes," with guns pointing. Absolutely nuts. But again, all of this is well within boundaries, apparently. It's all that, because all that matters, really, is that the narrative be preserved. Oliver Willis of the execrable Media Matters, he tweeted out, quote, "A few months ago, I wrote about how Der Stürmer, a pro-Nazi paper in the 1930s and 40s Germany, laid the groundwork for the Holocaust by linking every crime to Jewish people." Anyway, here is the front page of Rupert Murdoch's New York Post today. All the New York Post said was transgender killer targets Christian school, which is exactly what happened. So it's like Der Stürmer now. And that was retweeted, of course, by Alejandra Caraballo, the trans activist who's at one of the Harvard Law School associated bodies. It's just gaslighting and insanity. Next level insanity. And this has become quasi-mainstream, apparently. I mean, this is apparently the Minnesota Lieutenant Governor, Peggy Flanagan, was caught wearing a shirt that says "Protect Trans Kids" with a knife on it. Again, imagine the situation being reversed, and you know exactly what everybody would be saying. You know exactly what everybody... Cenk Uyghur, he tweeted out, "Right wing seems to celebrate the Nashville shooter was trans as if that vindicates them. WTF? Doesn't that prove that maybe you guys shouldn't bully people about who they are? If you think the answer is more bullying, you missed the point and are probably a terrible person. And it's your fault." And then there's line number 3, which is, of course, the traditional gun control line from the left. Now, the most irritating form of this line is coming courtesy of people like Jon Stewart, but now being repeated across the media as though it's a smart point, even though it is a ridiculously stupid point. You remember that Jon Stewart had on a state legislator, I believe it was from Oklahoma, talking about some bills that were attempting to restrict trans indoctrination of kids. And he was like, well, guns kill kids. And I don't see you banning guns, which, of course, is a complete non sequitur. What you are trying to prevent is the indoctrination of children into a gender cult that screws with their brains. On the one hand. On the other, you're talking about the complexity of a Second Amendment right. There are already laws against people shooting kids. There are already laws against, for example, people bringing guns into schools in most of these places, particularly if you're not licensed. Okay, this is obviously true. Okay, but it doesn't matter. Jon Stewart said it, so we have to pretend it's intelligent, and then we have to repeat it over and over and over. So CNN's Brian Kayem was doing this routine yesterday, saying pronouns don't kill kids, guns do. Well, as it turns out, the ideology that promotes the idea that men can be women and women can be men, and that if society refuses to accept you, then society is to blame, and perhaps violent activity against that society is justified. Maybe that ideology is, in fact, quite radical. But again, the idea here is we have to ignore this one issue. Stop paying attention to this issue over here that's really disturbing and messed up. Stop paying attention. Let's pay attention to guns. We can't walk and chew gum at the same time. It is amazing how for the left, the inanimate object suddenly becomes the root of all evil the minute that the person wielding the inanimate object seems to be on their own ideological side.
This is where we have to now focus on an important part of an agenda, which includes mental health, protecting our kids, fortifying schools, but also the connectivity, which is a certain kind of gun. Look, pronouns do not kill children, right? People with guns kill children, and it's going to be a distraction in our coverage and keep us from what we now know, which is each of these cases has a similarity more than any difference.
Oh, it's the gun. Right, okay. So Then you have Joy Reid doing the same routine. This is Joy Reid, again, suggesting that we must ignore all of the gender ideology issues surrounding this particular case and focus in on gun control.
But you have this in the state of Tennessee, which, ironically is the Scopes monkey trial state, right? Where they used to have a law against teaching evolution in public schools. They now are racing to enact these First Amendment limiting laws to limit things like drag shows. You have rampant book banning. I think Tennessee might be the most aggressive book banning state, even more so than Florida. And so they're essentially saying it's too dangerous to allow children to be exposed to a drag show. A drag queen is as dangerous to children. These books are dangerous to children. But when it comes to guns, they're like, no, put more guns where children are. It is an irony that's hard to get away from during this time of moral panic over books, history, and drag shows.
So just to be clear about this, she's saying that kids should be able to view pornography in order to protect them. Is that apparently her connection here? I'm missing the counter logic. Like, I need to hear her argument explicitly spelled out. I guess the idea is that if we ban guns but gave kids pornography, that's the solution. That's weird, by the way. If there had been somebody on premises with a gun it turns out it took a person with a gun to stop the evil person with the gun. Get to more on that in just 1 second. First, I need to talk to you about DailyWire's most trusted privacy partner and our premier sponsor of this show, ExpressVPN. Well, it's one thing we have learned in our society. Trust very few people. Why exactly would you trust the big tech bros? Why would you trust them to keep your data safe? Especially when they've made pretty clear that they are giving you free services because they wish to monetize your data. Why would you trust them when it comes to whether they're going to protect you from government that is requesting your data from them, for example? Well, you shouldn't. This is why I use ExpressVPN. Your ISP knows every single website you visit. They can sell that information to ad companies and the tech giants who use it to target you, and they can hand it over to the government. ExpressVPN puts a stop to this by creating a secure encrypted tunnel between your device and the internet so your online activity cannot be seen by anybody. This is the reason I use ExpressVPN on all of my devices. We're talking phones, laptops, Wi-Fi routers, all of it. ExpressVPN is super simple. One button to download, one button, you click it, and now it's activated. If, like me, you believe that your online activity is nobody else's business, get the VPN I trust at expressvpn.com/Ben. Use my exclusive link, EXPRESS, VPN.com/Ben. Get an extra 3 months for free. expressvpn.com/Ben. Well, if you're informed, you know that when a supply chain breaks down, when you got a real problem out there, you need to have the medicines that you need in your house. And sometimes you just can't get to the CVS, or sometimes you can get to the CVS, but they don't actually have the medicine that you need. This is why you should have the Jace case from Jace Medical. It is the 5 most common antibiotics that you will need in case of emergency. You have it in your house ready to go. Head on over to Jace Medical for that. But that's not all they're doing. My friends right now at Jace Medical are offering my audience a free ebook that every family needs in their emergency preparedness kit. The ebook is maybe a 5-minute read. I want you to download and save it so you have it when you need it. The guide provides valuable information regarding emergency wound care, proper first aid, and how to safely use antibiotics when necessary. Get this free ebook today at jasemedical.com/Ben. That's JASE medical.com/Ben. Again, jasemedical.com/Ben. Go check them out right now. Make your family medically safer. And by the way, in the process, get that ebook. It could be really useful in an emergency. jasemedical.com/Ben. So Whoopi Goldberg yesterday, the repository of all morality on the left, she says, I'm tired of your 75 guns. Yours. Okay, so I have a question. Did any of my guns do anything? They didn't. I noticed. They're still in my safe. Did any of your guns do anything yesterday? Probably not. But apparently it's your 75 guns that Whoopi is deeply worried about, guarded by armed guards over at the local affiliate studios.
He said, okay, if we can't move an assault weapons ban, I would be willing to say, why don't we put in place trainings, background checks, mental health screenings to be able to have one?
Why are we compromised? Why are we? You know what I'm tired of. I don't mean to be rude to cut you off. I'm tired of trying to find a way to justify you being able to keep 75 guns in your house. I am tired of trying to figure out a way to say, listen. We have rules and regulations. The Constitution is very clear. Scalia changed the meaning of what the Constitution says.
Oh yeah, constitutional scholar Whoopi Goldberg is on the move here, taking on Antonin Scalia. I just have a question for Whoopi Goldberg. What does Article 1 do? How about 2 or 3? What does Article 4 do, Whoopi? Her knowledge of the Constitution is about as deep as her understanding of Holocaust history. Meanwhile, Joy Behar, on the same show, she says that really what's happening here is that the gun lobby wants kids to die. The avoidance here is astonishing. It's astonishing. Again, if the situation were reversed, if this had been a straight white man shooting up, quote unquote, trans kids at a progressive school in Santa Monica, We all know what the subject would be. But for the left, it's gun control and the cruelties of American society to trans people. It's maddening.
The next mass shooter is planning their shooting. What will this chamber do about it?
Nothing. They'll do nothing. They do nothing. It's all about the money. You know, Marsha Blackburn is a senator from Tennessee. She, of course, sent out her thoughts and prayers. She is 13th on a list of senators who received the most money from the NRA. She received over $1.3 million in donations while representing a state with 1,273 gun deaths a year. Okay, follow the money. This is what this is all about, the gun lobby. All these people who are selling guns, they make a lot of money off of children's deaths, apparently, in this country.
God, these people are they're so tiresome. They're so tiresome. The stupidity of people like Joy Behar, that somebody disagrees with you, so it's about the money. Fine, I can do that. I can play this game too. Maybe the reason that Joy Behar believes what she believes is because it's about the money. She doesn't get paid to be on The View and have rational views. She gets paid to be on The View and be a moron. Maybe so it's about the money. I'm going to assume that she doesn't actually believe any of the things she says. It's because her advertisers want her to keep saying that stuff. If it's good for the goose, it's good for the gander. Or maybe Marsha Blackburn believes, like a huge majority of Americans, that there are gun rights under the Second Amendment, and that my ownership of a gun is not responsible for a trans person shooting up a bunch of Christian school kids.